Hyperdimensional technology powered the villages, towns, cities, and industries of men. It opened portals between worlds and dimensions. It allowed open-air colonies on utterly inhospitable celestial bodies. It was a weapon that controlled weather, caused earthquakes, and mustered firestorms. Advanced hyperdimensional physics reversed the gravity of the planet Tiamat at its very core to burst that world apart. Celestial bodies were obliterated, and their destruction and very absence pushed and pulled the motions of the stars and planets out of alignment. The heavens dimmed, and all life became harsh. Mars and Atlantis were at war, but discreetly. They slaughtered each other's underlings, mindful not to kill each other directly. The underlings of the masters were allowed to fight and kill the masters, however, only as insurgencies and in limited actions. Mars and Atlantis waged their proxy wars, careful not to provoke a hyperdimensional response.
We cannot burn Atlantis. Their field is strong enough to resist and would react even if we caught them by surprise. We may be able to sink them by geological manipulation, but they would have plenty of time to retaliate.
What would they do?
They could short out our delicate magnetic field, especially while we are channeling it to attack them.
It is within their power to destroy us, but not readily within our power to destroy them.
Yes, our world is teetering as it is from the devastation of old. Earth suffered, but marginally. Earth recovered, and Mars never will.
We can destroy Atlantis, but only to our own destruction. We need Earth as our new home if we are to prevail. As we conquer, we shall colonize. Let them finish off our dying world. We shall replace them as the men of Earth.
Nergal was a cherub pretending to be a human being. The 7 warrior sages were material flesh animated by immaterial entities. The true men of Mars were truly men. They were the humanity of what had become an inhuman dominion. Mars was a desert, but one with forests and farmland. The humanity of Mars had homes and communities. They had cemeteries and visited them to celebrate the lives of departed loved ones. They had parks for the living to enjoy the lives they lived. The Martians became a warrior people, but they were people first and foremost. The common man did not live to kill. He lived and fathered life for better than death and destruction. All that he did for love of life and the lives of others. The men of Mars were men of God as a matter of principle. The cross was the symbol of their God for reasons no mortal man knew. Behold the hand, behold the nail, was a riddle even the wisest could not answer. The people of Mars cried out to God as the world was burned and flooded by the pieces and waters of Tiamat. The survivors sang praises unto God for their salvation. Mars became a dry and barren waste, yet Martians gave thanks for what little they could find to eat and drink. They were grateful for what little land remained fertile. In the days of yore, Mars was green and teeming with men and creatures. It was the moon of the planet Tiamat as its province. The humanity of Mars and Tiamat alike paid homage and tribute to the Titans who ruled them. Martians fought as soldiers under the command of Prince Kingu against the Federation of Light, and lost. Prevail or pay dearly became a Martian proverb, as did deal the death blow or prepare to die. The Martians never lost their faith in God, but it corrupted into a warrior cult.
Does God not favor the strong over the weak?
The spirit of Nergal whispered into the minds of men.
Does God not favor the wise over the foolish? Men of Mars, you are strong and wily. Was it not the way of God to cleanse you of weakness and stupidity by bloody tribulation? Be the warriors he means you to be.
The spear and shield became as common as the cross as a religious symbol among the men of Mars. The Ankh became the new cross, as the worship of God became homage unto devils. President Nergal of United Mars was to meet with President Triton of Atlantis in the one city all men held sacred, Salem in the land of crossroads. Lucius Deimos assured the men of Earth,
"We come in peace."
Anthony Triton wore the suit and tie of a civilian in office. Ares Nergal wore the suit and tie white uniform of the Martian commander-in-chief. The two presidents shook hands, and the people of Earth who watched hoped the smiles were sincere. Mars agreed to withdraw its troops from Earth in exchange for the lifting of the sanctions and with the promise of economic assistance.
They were begging all along. They were simply too proud to make it obvious.
I don't think so. Keep our people on full alert.
The Atlanteans eavesdropped on all correspondence and communication between Mars and its allies on Earth. They heard and read Mars tell Egypt, Thule, and Cimmeria that Mars was indeed leaving. The Martians assured their worried allies that Mars was not forsaking them, and would intervene diplomatically if Atlantis caused them grief.
They really are leaving.
Egypt and Thule will be begging for our forgiveness. We'll have the meeting out of our hand.
Portals opened from Mars, but these were anticipated for the scheduled withdrawal of Martian forces. Only none left, and more came. Martian saboteurs and air power were the first to strike. Paratroopers secured areas while mechanized forces swept across the nations. Egypt, Thule, and Cimmeria were as surprised as anyone else by the sudden and brutal attacks. They answered the call of Mars and rallied their own forces to secure the lands the Martians so swiftly conquered.
Does that fool want to destroy the worlds?
President Triton railed against President Nergal.
He wants to conquer this one.
They are not using their hyperdimensional capability as a weapon. I strongly advise we refrain from doing so as well. The solar system already lost a planet.
Let's lose Mars.
Sir, we could lose Earth.
I think we already are.
Mars controlled a third of the planet Earth in the first 66 days.
We win or lose this war by invading Atlantis.
To invade Atlantis itself is to provoke a hyperdimensional response. May we conquer the world around them and dominate them economically instead?
Yes, that would be glorious. Let us wade our enemies into submission.
Mr. President, hyperdimensional warfare is war without winners.
We barely control what we occupy. Atlantis keeps resistance armed and hopeful. A long and grueling war does not suit the Martian temperament. As things are, we are losing. We must take or destroy Atlantis, and quickly.
Henry Phobos was thrilled to hear Atlantean Marines landed on the coast of Shinar. They were moving inland. Phobos rallied his Martians to meet these Atlanteans, warrior to warrior, in the fields of Shinar. Phobos led his troops personally. His command outmaneuvered the Atlanteans and drove them back to the coast, but not into the sea. He withdrew when the action was proving a costly stalemate. There were simply not enough Martians for a war of attrition. Even without the threat of hyperdimensional warfare, the invasion of Atlantis was daunting to even consider. It was a continent surrounded by a sea and protected by the most powerful navy. Its spatial dominance would not allow portals to be opened uninvited.
We can sink it.
Atlantis can short our magnetic field.
Martian civilians were already coming to Earth as settlers. Unfortunately, most Martians and Martian industry remained on Mars. Nergal was not at liberty to sacrifice the Red Planet quite yet. The men of Mars adored the spirit of the warrior, but as men of the one true god of their forefathers. Shrines to the warrior were marked with the cross in recognition that the Lord of Spirits had dominion over the warrior. The men of Earth worshipped angels openly and unabashed. Poseidon was the god of Atlantis. Although Lucifer was recognized as the king of the gods, the loyalty and obedience of Atlantis was unto Poseidon first and foremost. The men of Mars were contemptuous of the paganism they found on Earth. Martian soldiers boasted of their own accord that they would march into Atlantis City and topple the idol of Poseidon. The temple would be rededicated as a shrine of the warrior. Lucifer entertained the vanity of his brothers, but in his heart he meant to be a jealous god. Nergal would destroy the rival cults. As the warrior, he would kneel, bow, and confess for all to hear that Lucifer was Lord. By murder and mayhem, Lucifer would establish his claim to being the Lord of Spirits.